The Arrowhead. Mom was a collector. Wherever she traveled, some natural objects found their way home with her. Most were preserved with specific notes about where and when she found them. We siblings discovered many such collections after she and Dad were gone. I chose to inherit a few. Among them, I found an arrowhead. There was a story told about Mom finding that arrowhead that sounds quite probable, knowing what I know about Mom, although I was not there at the time. You see, after Dad retired, he and Mom bought some property on a small lake in southwest Michigan where they built a house. The lot at that time was mostly a flat, sandy asparagus field, but close to the lake it sloped down with ancient white oaks. The area between the house and the lake had been used as a dump. Dad and whatever helpers he could round up had to clean out a lot of junk before they could make their path and lakeside storage hut. Mom was a water person. She loved that lake and swam in it and had a paddle boat in which she traveled on it, meeting and greeting the neighbors as she went. She loved to have the family over to enjoy the lake with her. But one thing bothered her. She'd found some broken glass in the shallows, left over no doubt from that dump. Before any of the grandkids came to swim, she would rake at the lake bottom to make sure there were no harmful objects where the little ones would play. And you might be guessing this, one time she raked up an arrowhead. Lately, that arrowhead's been pricking my conscience. I now live in that same house, on that same small lake. It's in a small town where the high school teams until very recently were called the Redskins. A couple of years ago, members of a remnant of the tribe who used to live in this area and other native rights advocates came to the school and requested changing the name because it was hurtful to indigenous people. Many residents fought hard to keep it and complained about outsiders asking them to change. As a relative newcomer to town, I didn't address the school board, but I kept thinking about that arrowhead and who were the outsiders. Fortunately, the school board eventually made the decision to change. I wanted to know more about that arrowhead, so I did some research. Most likely back before being forcibly removed in 1838, the Potawatomi people lived on this land, part of the Anishinaabe group of tribes. There was no lake then. It was created when a dam was built in 1907. I can imagine that it must have been a verdant northwards valley with multiple springs, because there are still springs that feed the lake. My father always said, but what we did to those people was a crime. But I didn't realize then how much I have directly benefited from what was done. Doing ancestral research, I have found relatives who homesteaded in Michigan in 1830s and 40s on land that was available because of the Indian Removal Act. When you think about it, all of us light-skinned folks in this country live on land that was once the homeland of indigenous people that our ancestors displaced in one way or another. Even if our ancestors bought it, native peoples may not have had the same concept of ownership as Europeans, and certainly didn't develop land in the same way. Dad was an earth person. He loved to have his hands in the dirt, always had a vegetable garden and beautiful flowers, and loved to plant trees. If I found out I had only one day to live, he would say, I'd plant a tree. And he planted lots on this property. You could say he reforested it. Now about 7 of the 7.5 acres is woods. Whether it was conscious or not, I like to think he honored the heritage of the indigenous people who lived here before us by helping this land return to its natural state. My husband and I are continuing the process, maintaining the woods, removing invasive species, planting more native trees, transitioning some of the lawn into prairie. So at least we've done something with this land that feels right. Now the arrowhead is asking me this question. What is justice for harm done to indigenous people that began many generations ago and has compounded through the generations? Mom, how do we rake the harmful stuff? Dad, what needs to be planted for the future?